Welcome back to my channel, Fazbear's Menagerie, where I'll explore the universe of Five Nights at Freddy's and I hope in a new interpretation of events. One typical description of the Five Nights universe would be that character William Afton is the series villain. To understand the universe of Scott Cawthon is to accept William's every aspect of his involvement. If I was to explain the Five Nights universe, then William gets only a few mentions. I would be talking about the point of view of four main characters with separate continuities that span the various books and games and movie. The idea of separate continuity was first brought up in the post by Scott back in December 2015, discussing the existence of novels within the same universe as the games. These words have been commonly seen as other dimensions or a retelling of the story. I would take them as the points of view of an important characters only getting their own particular viewport in the grander story. Their viewport, while told through a Five Nights novella, is not complete. Their viewports tell their own stories. Within the Five Nights material, I believe Phone Guy, Mike Afton, Charlotte Emily, and Nessie's view have been given. And while not about the series antagonist, what they encounter talks worlds about the universe of Five Nights at Freddy's. This video will outline their stories. Within the first three games, we are told about the security guard known as Phone Guy. This nickname exists within the series for many years until the Choose Your Own Adventure book the week before lets us know his name is Ralph. Throughout the first games, Ralph gives us advice to avoid being captured by the animatronics that will walk freely around the restaurant. This advice acts like a tutorial for new guards to keep them alive for longer. It wouldn't be until the week before that we learned that Ralph was likely recording these messages in 1989 and would pass away within the costumes of the back room of the restaurant. The time that Mike Schmidt hears that message was too late to do anything about it. Although we do learn that Fazbear franchise readily conceals incidents that happened at its establishments and that Ralph himself has cleaned up areas of suspicious nature. Ralph's story is told across three games and one book. His time as a manager likely starts in 1983 when the Freddy Fazbear restaurant opens, continues into 1987 when the bite happens to a security guard, and continues until 1989 when he dies on the night he only goes back to stop the spirits within the animatronics from breaking free from the building. Ralph is one of few heroes in the series. His actions would be stopped by series villain Golden Freddy. Ralph's helpful tutorial would be played for future guards to give the spirit children a more challenging contender to play with. This game continues on for years. Fazbear Entertainment does not seem able to look beyond the animatronics' unusual actions being any more than the tampering of their program. Ralph would end up in the costume in parts and service for a future guard to discover. With the Five Nights universe expanding with the success of the first three games, Scott continues with the story of Mike Afton. In the fourth game, set in the earliest years of the series, Mike is tormenting his younger brother, who is tormented by an earlier event. That event isn't clear to us, but what Mike does to his younger brother is known. With his three friends, Mike would raise the younger brother into the mouth of the Fredbear Springlock costume and would bite down on his brother. As the book the week before gives us additional information of a man also involved. That man who calls out not to go near the bear costume, I would suspect is restaurant co-owner Henry. Henry, I suspect, would feel grief from his lack of action to stop the bite, and this would go on to haunt him for many decades to come. The following games of FNAF World, Sister Location, and Pizzeria Simulator are the results of Mike's actions from 1983. FNAF World is what his younger brother had to go through following the bite. Fighting the creatures that now haunted him, younger brother needed his friends to defeat them. Once all were defeated, his friends could then leave, allowing the child to carry on in life with his father and a changed brother. Decades later, I suspect Mike returned to the franchise for the Fazbear Frights horror attraction. Here, Mike would investigate the location and would likely be the one responsible for the fire that burnt the place down, an event that left now dark Springtrap in the ashes of the building. The Circus Baby rental facility, located underground, was where Mike was sent to retrieve it. Clearly instruction from his father, Mike would need to retrieve one of the Funtime animatronics. While there, he would cross paths with his sister Elizabeth, whom he didn't seem too surprised to find. Mike seemed aware of her existence even if he hadn't seen her since 1983. His efforts to retrieve the Funtime didn't go to plan as they would escape in the combined form of Enid. Mike would be scooped and used in their escape. He would gain back his freedom from the animatronics, although in a terrible form. Unable to interact with the public out of fear for them and himself, he would return to the rental facility and Henry. Between Henry and Mike, bringing an end to the monsters was needed. The events of Pizzeria Simulator are the time when Mike and Henry organised the collection and capture of the haunted animatronics and would set them on fire. This was Henry's attempt to free the souls and have them move on. Mike would be the guard that tested and ensured that all is still inside the building, and Henry would give his final words to Springtrap. The next character's story is Charlotte Emily's. From the novel trilogy, Charlotte's childhood involved growing up around Fredbear's family diner, something made difficult while the Aftons were involved. Following her death in 1983, this should have been the end of her character, although her soul moved into the animatronic that went to her aid, resulting in Charlotte staying. As Father Henry wasn't aware that her soul was in the animatronic, it was her favourite doll Ella that would get his love. This emotion allowed her soul to connect to the doll, and once the doll was located in the body of an animatronic girl, meant Charlotte could influence the machine and continue living. That's how Charlie was created. Even separated, the two were one character, even sharing the memory of that bear. Charlotte's memory was positive it was Fredbear, but Charlie corrected it to be Freddy. Charlie's story involved her friends, the ones who also crossed paths with William and Springtrap. These friends were with her when she started her journey of discovery when she found out she was an animatronic. They were with her after the animatronics were done with her, John even visiting Charlotte's gravesite where he met up with Charlie again. Interactions with William and Springtrap gave her the pieces needed to understand her past. Series fans should pay attention to Afton's role and dialogue in these books, as it is one of the few times they speak directly to the questions about their motives. By the end of these books, Charlie seems unconnected with Charlotte and ready to continue her life with John. The fourth character, whose story spans multiple games, is Nessie. We first encounter Nessie's message left to us in hidden recordings throughout the game of Help Wanted, while we're playing as a beta tester. The message talks about the virus that had been made its way into the game. Not able to be deleted, the virus is broken apart by Nessie to minimize the harm it could do. Over the course of several messages, a new introduction is heard. Nessie, I suspect, was taken over, not by the virus, but by the soul of another person, someone who wants the virus together again. The virus would be moved in various vessels to the new Pizzaplex. For Help Wanted 2, the story continues when dialogue found in the game files gives the defiance Nessie still has. Feeding our character information about his actions would involve collecting the last piece. How doing so would help them win. Nessie seemed to be resistant during these games. It could be likely she gained access to the VR network during this, so she could leave clues for Vanessa to follow. As Help Wanted 2 was completed, and Vanny got the last piece, Nessie appears to have failed to stop it. There are games that I think have been added to bridge the gap between these stories. Into the Pit, Fury's Rage, and Ultimate Custom Night appear to lead us to the next group while not using the main character's story. We are also seeing what is likely the next grouping with Secret of the Mimic connecting with Help Wanted 2. We'll learn more about that in the months to come. These stories are the separate continuities that Scott spoke about back when the Silver Eyes novels first came out. Groupings of story told in different medium which give us one particular character's involvement in a grander story. Scott didn't have the entire series planned out from the start. What he could do is tell us a grander story in pieces, from different characters' point of view. Within this storytelling, there is a story of series antagonists, the Aftons. With each story, we hear about some new aspect that we previously had not. With each story of the universe in Five Nights at Freddy's becoming richer in detail. And that's what I look forward to in future works. Thanks for staying with me till the end. If you enjoyed the video, then leave a like to help grow the channel. To find out when new videos become available, subscribe for future content.